Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across the world, and a very warm welcome to episode number 61 of Meet Menaca, Being You. I would really want to take this opportunity to welcome a very special guest amongst us, and that is Mr. Mavai Nithi. Sir is an engineer, as well as somebody who's done tons of social work, and is someone who's an expert in the topic that we are going to talk today, and that is suicide prevention. Thank you so much, sir, for being able to make it to today's session.
Sure.
To give you a short brief about Nithi, sir, he's a well-known Tamil author and stage director. Nithi began his career as an engineer following his graduation from the University of Moratuawa in Sri Lanka and later Cranfield University in England. He immigrated to Australia, where he founded the prestigious and international Bharati Academy, a Tamil language school in Melbourne. After serving as principal for 28 years, he retired. His passion for travel and making a difference in the world continued, and he moved to Sri Lanka, where he worked as a volunteer in mental health. Concerned with the impact of suicide on loved ones and the distress and anguish suffered by those considering the unthinkable, 8 years ago, he founded a suicide prevention center. He's currently exercising his engineering expertise by developing an integrated organic model farm in Jaffna. His goal is to promote water saving and chemical-free farming, along with, of course, a topic which is very close to his heart, and that is suicide prevention. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for being able to make it at this unearthly hour at your end. And I could already see the energy beaming in you. And I'm sure all of us are going to get to know so much from you and clear most of our concept. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Just to give you a short brief, when I was first told that this is the topic that we are going to talk today, I, was researching, thinking, asking people. And some of the thoughts and ideas which I came across, I just want to start with that before I go on to our speaker. Just to give you a short glimpse, and I'm sure sir has many more details than me, globally, 8 lakh people die from suicide every year. And that's twice the number from homicide. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death in young people. 1.4% of global deaths in 2017, 2018 were from suicide. In some countries, this share is as high as 5%. They say suicide rates are typically higher for the older individuals. Globally, the suicide rate for men is twice as high for women. In many countries, this ratio is even higher. Self-poisoning from pesticides have had a large toll, particularly in low to middle income countries. In US, 60% of death from firearms results from suicides. If this is, or if these are the facts and figures, if these are the numbers, I guess it's high time that we actually took up this topic on the global level. And it's high time that we understand that how can these numbers be reduced? And that's the reason why we have an expert in this field. Sir, I would want to understand from you, I just gave a small glimpse, but what I want to understand from you is how badly has this threat to humanity, I may call it, or a catastrophe, I may call it, affected the world? I would want to know some numbers, some details from you, sir.
Okay, Rohan, I think you have covered quite a bit of it already in your introduction. Before going there, I just wanted to mention that I have not retired still from the Bharati Academy. I'm still the principal of 5 schools in Melbourne, and I'll go on. So one way of preventing suicide.
Sir, I'm sure the people in the school don't want you to retire, sir.
Okay. Well, now, the thing is, a person is dying by suicide every 40 seconds. So we can imagine by the time we finish this session, how many people would have died. We can just guess. So it comes to 800,000 people on average per year dying out of suicide. So we have had COVID amongst us. We talk every day about the death by COVID, but just compare 800,000 people year after year for so many years, and it will be for the years to come unless something is, there's no injection, there's no vaccination for suicide, unlike COVID. So it's a problem, and as you correctly said, higher the age, higher the chances of suicide. The rates are higher. As the grade goes, the suicide rate goes up. So 15 to 30-year-old children, they say that there's a fourth killer of children of the age group, suicide. So it's so predominant. And as you said, men. In UK, I think it's 3 times. In Sri Lanka, it's 3 times. But for some reason or other, in India, it's almost in par, surprisingly. So they give equal rights to men and women in India, whereas. So that's the story. And as you said, pesticide. Developing countries, pesticides is a huge problem, and hanging is a normal way of taking the lives.
I mean, it's hard to imagine, as Nithi sir is sharing, that by the time we finish this program, how many people would have already committed this thing to their lives, already done this thing to the gift which was given to them. But sir, I want to understand, as an absolute novice in this thought, that why do people commit suicide? I mean, what instigates or what comes into them that they may want to take such an extreme step, make such a big extreme decision?
Okay, I'll be talking out of my own experience because I have been in the field for 8-9 years now, and it is a very passionate topic for me. That's the background with which I'm talking. I'm now not talking as a medical expert or knowledgeable, that sort of thing. I'm talking to ordinary people, addressing ordinary people, and the only aim is that I'm very passionate about the fact that the suicide have to come down. So I'm talking out of my own experience. Whatever I say will be based on that. And also my training with Sri Lanka Sumitrio, I must mention them. Sri Lanka Sumitrio is a wonderful organization in Sri Lanka, now almost approaching 50 years. And I have been trained by them. Wonderful people. They are very dedicated, passionate, dedicated people. Some of them spend their lifetime on suicide prevention. So this is the background from which I'm coming. Now, why people are suiciding and taking their life? Normally, we will say, okay, if you ask somebody, say it's because of relations problems, love failure or problem with a wife or husband, or out of financial difficulties, or because they are ill and so ill that they want to take their lives. There are other reasons, depression, although all these reasons are there. Okay, so now if you really look at it, these are not the reasons. Examination failures. One in Sri Lanka, children are dying because of it. But if you really have a look at it, that is not the real reason. So we call 3 reasons, underlying factors which cause suicide. One is mental illness, obviously depression and other mental illnesses. The second one is substance abuse, drugs and drinking and over drinking, and people take their life. And the third one is unable to cope. That's the thing where we can do a lot of work. People are unable to cope with the distress, with their mental stress, and agony. So that is where the main problem where which we can address. So it's emotional pain, emotional pain which exceeds their ability to cope. So take an example now. If now a person who, so a lot of people are dying because I work in Jaffna, northern Sri Lanka. From there, a lot of people take their lives because of failure in relationships. Now, love. But when you see, not everyone takes their life. Now, so 1 in 10 or 1 in 50 or 1 in 100, whichever may be, exam failure. Not everybody dies because of exam failure. So why is this different? Only some die and all the others keep going. So obviously it is because they are unable to cope. The agony, the pain, the emotional pain which they are experiencing, and they think that the way to escape from it is to take their life. So it's a way of escaping.
Right.
It's a way of bringing to an end this mental distress. That's how they see. So surveys show when they surveyed people who have failed in suicide. Everyone in Sri Lanka, at least, every one suicide, there are 10 attempts, sort of. This is right. Universally also true. Now, when you ask them, they regret for having attempted suicide. So in that at the time they wanted escape, and they couldn't find anything else other than ending their life. So this, along with the substance abuse and the depression, is a big cause for suicide. So these are the three underlying factors which lead to suicide.
Thank you so much, sir, because it's an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure for many of us, which usually think that it's the surface issues which are the real issues, whereas when you actually unearth them, there are these under factors which are, which you can say the surface issues lead them to that, and then that leads them, this is a way to escape all the worries and miseries of life. So, the obvious next question or the next thought which comes to my mind, sir, is that, like some people are highly expressive. Some people, they know how to control and, keep their emotions inside, and they somehow never come out. If suppose, me or anybody else for that matter, how can we identify that somebody is suicidal or somebody is even having this running at the back of his or her mind? I mean, are there any traits? Are there any symptoms? Are there any behavioral aspects which they showcase?
Yeah, so now it is possible, definitely possible to identify suicidal tendencies. It's a matter of keeping our eyes open. Now, the volunteers who work with us in the northern province, in Jaffna, they will identify. Now, a lot of people come to see them or talk over the phone, and they will identify who is suicidal, and at what stage they are, and all that sort of thing. See, a person suicidal will go to a corner, in the sense that they isolate themselves. They withdraw from the others. And then they are constantly talking about their problem. Oh, I got this. So it's exam failure. Oh, I failed in this exam. Or dismissed from a job. Oh, I lost my job. They are unable to come out of it. So you can see that they're buried into it, and also talking all the time about it, and also talking about how deadly it is for them. The feeling it's right. Creating within themselves. They talk about it, and also they will often tidy up their affairs. For example, if they have to pay a loan, they will pay it off. This we have seen. So one of the reasons, actually, when I went to Sri Lanka, I didn't go with an intention of starting a suicide center. But when I went there, just this short story, just to tell you, at that time, a fourth year economics student, Jaffna University, committed suicide. And the dean of the faculty was a good friend of mine. And I was able to, from him, I was able to learn all what has happened to this young lady. And he himself was devastated that he couldn't help his own student. And to find that this girl has settled her affairs, met friends, done all that, and gone to Kilinochchi and jumped into a well. So people, so if it that all of a sudden somebody comes and gives you something, you know, oh, now this is a precious thing, then you keep it, this is for you. Oh, my jewelry is for you. So he must not think, oh, what a wonderful thing, I got jewelry. he must think, why is this happening? This happens all the time. So people around those who are suiciding should be able to pick this up. You know, they are vigilant. They should be able to pick it up. And also people who go towards suicide, they very well know how they are planning their suicide, how they are going to end their life. They make their plan. They are very clear about it. This is what experts say. They are very clear about it, and I can narrate so many stories, my own experience, and from the training I have got, how prepared people have been for a long, long time. So it's possible, quite possible, to pick this up.
Okay. So that's again something which is quite startling to think of, that somebody is absolutely crystal clear in his or her thinking about how he or she is going to commit suicide. You know, I mean, that when that much amount of clarity is there, but somehow, even though many a times we are in their surroundings, we are not able to realize that they're actually going through these kind of thoughts. So what I wanted to understand from you, sir, is that does depression have any role to play in this? And how can we read that area of, reason behind them thinking of, committing such a thing?
Sorry, Rohan, who played the role, you said?
I said, sir, am I audible to you, sir?
Yeah.
I said, sir, what I wanted to understand is what role does depression have to play in this? And, how do you feel that is also one of the major reasons or the starting points for them to take such a decision?
Yes. Yeah, now, depression, there are medical specialists who will be more qualified to talk on this topic. But still, as a lay person, we can understand depression. Some of the symptoms are just like what I just explained. They will hide themselves, they isolate themselves, and they will not mingle with others as they have been, and thinking about their problem all the time, and talking about the problem all the time, like what a suicidal person does. And also physically, they may lose sleep, not enough sleep, they can't sleep, or they get headaches and that sort of issues come up. And all the time, as the word goes, in a mood of depression, in a depressed mood. So that's basically, and also they think, oh, I'm a failure. What's the point in living in this world? Oh, I'm useless. So they lose their self-esteem. Depression is a huge problem. The medical specialists will vouch for that. And in Jaffna, where we work, depression, especially in women, And because of the social fabric as well, there are those causes as well. The depression is a big problem. Depression is a big problem everywhere. So they say 1 in 20. Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay,
sorry. No, go ahead, sir. Sorry, just.
Yeah. It's there's a percentage, I think, out of people in mental illness, 10% or 12. I'm not too sure about it at the moment, but there's a high percentage. It's not mental illness is very high. That's depression is one kind of mental illness, though.
Perfect, sir. So what I can understand from what you just shared with us is that it's something which is a gradual process. By the time one actually reaches to that ultimate decision, and sometimes it can be stopped somewhere on the path or in the bud as such. But one, thought comes to my mind, which I want to ask you, is that does it ever happen that people can, at the spur of the moment, take a decision about committing suicide and just go ahead with it? Or is it something which, is a gradual thing?
Yeah, a lot of people believe that suicide can happen spur of the moment, suddenly. From the training I have had and my own experience, that is not the case. Suicide is a gradual process. It develops. The idea of suicide develops within the person's mind. From the point where the person has had a loss or a grief or something which has affected the person deeply. It can be anything like, can be a divorce, or can be somebody's death, a loved one's death, or it can be a love break, or it can be anything, losing a job. Whatever happens after that, so that's the starting point. And then the person dwells within that problem, unable to come out of it, and it grows and grows. And so I would call suicide is a journey from this starting point to the time when the person really takes their life off. Now, I used to say to my volunteers there, we can intercept them at any point. The people who come for help to the volunteers, they can be at the initial stage, they can be at the final stage. So, but spur of the moment I would call it a rare thing. So it's a journey, and in that period of time, we or the society, or the volunteers, we should detect them. We will identify them as having a problem, suicidal tendency, and there are ways of identifying by talking to them, and the ways of talking to them, and because as I said before, the suicide is always planned. I can narrate stories. So one story which actually a senior suicide prevention person told me, their own experience. There was this person who came to see her, and that person came and sat in front of her for half an hour, 45 minutes, and nothing spoken, and went away. And so we have some guidelines within our organization that we don't press people to talk. It should come on their own. Then the second day, the person has come, they say hello, yeah, hello, and then didn't want to say anything and went away. The third day, the person came and started talking a bit. And gradually, they became very friendly, and the person had faith on. This is why they don't talk. Two new people, they don't know each other. So this person whom we call the caller, so that person has developed faith on the other person, the friendship. Then the person, we call it a blunt question we ask. We ask in a nice way though, are you suicidal? Are you thinking about taking your life? Are you fully frustrated about this world? That sort of question. And she asked this question, and that person started crying, broke down and cried. And then she asked, okay, you are going to take your life. Now, how are you going to take your life? And this, the person has said, I have got tablets, I've collected tablets. And then he said, okay, where are the tablets? Oh, it's in my pocket. Can I see that? He pulled it in the pocket and placed on the table. Here are the tablets. I am prepared to die. Then she asked, can I have this for another day and return it to you tomorrow? He said, yes. So that is how the suicide was prevented. So people have plans. When the railway tracks, in Sri Lanka, all the railway tracks were destroyed because of the war, and they put the new railway lines, and the train started running from Colombo to Jaffna. From the first day, lots of people jumped onto the train and died. It was so they were waiting. So people have their plans. Now there's a bridge in Melbourne which is famous for it. So people plan and do. It's not a sudden thing. It's a planned affair, and that is why we have every chance to stop it.
Right. So I mean, sometimes after listening, especially to the stories that you've shared, sometimes feel that it's such a shame that we've lost such talented, unique people to something which, frankly, could have so easily been avoided as such. But what I wanted to understand, what I could gather from the experience that you're sharing, sir, see, most of us like to speak a lot, but here you told me that, they only speak when they're able to develop a good amount of trust, with the forum. But at the same point of time, I wanted to understand from the other side, because most of us, again, I guess people will agree with me, love to give advice, but we are bad at taking advices. We love to speak, but we are bad at listening. How important is it to listen, with, basically with a patient ear to these kind of people?
Yeah. Listening. That's what we say to our volunteers. Listening is the key, not talking. If you want to help somebody, it's not by talking. It's by listening. So the first thing anybody will say is listen with empathy. So if somebody is having a regret, somebody is affected, emotionally affected, and to that person, we don't go and lecture. We allow that person to pour what is in the mind out. It's a simple thing. I don't have to say this to anyone. This is a straightforward thing. So we have to do that. So listen with empathy. So empathy means you put yourself in that person's place. Not listen like you listen to the TV. It's not like that. You put yourself in that person's place and listen. And it should be genuine listening. These are very important. It's just a matter of, it should be genuine. You must be able to spend any amount of, these are features of listening. Any amount of time we must be able to spend. So the volunteers with whom I am working, they know that they can spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, sometimes until the person finished. They keep on talking. Not the person talking, but the visitor will be talking. So, and also, so we tell the volunteers, don't have your watches. Remove your watches out. There's no watch when you go to help other people. And the other thing is you accept the other person. If you don't accept the person, then we start advising. Advising is the biggest enemy to help other people. It's not what they want. A person who is mentally so affected, emotionally affected, so that kind of person doesn't need advice. They will not understand it. They don't want it. So all they want is somebody to listen, show love, show empathy, and in that process, what we can do is to open their vision. Normally that kind of people have what we call tunnel vision. Tunnel vision means you look through a tube. So they see only that, only the problem they are seeing. So through this, by listening and asking some clever questions, you can open up their minds. But we should never give a solution, because we are not there to solve other people's problems. When we don't solve them, we can't solve them, and we don't know to solve them. Every person is different. Every person's problem is different. So we can only help them to think of their problem and think of how to solve. I'm saying to you all what we used to discuss among our volunteer group.
Absolutely. So from what I could gather, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
And then you don't judge the person. This person must be not clever, not intelligent, or this person is a drunkard. No, we are not there to judge, and also neither patronize. Give them I'm in a higher place, and we say, if I were you, but I am not you. So we don't say, if I were you, I will do this, or in my old days, this is how we did this. That person is different. And confidentiality. If it is a known person, okay. Otherwise, if it is a person not very much known, then you have to build confidence, faith on each other, and also preserve confidentiality. There are instances where this is just a side thing. We have in Sri Lanka, in schools, we have counselors, teacher counselors, and we found that one day a counselor teacher, a student went and spoke to the teacher confidentially, a lot of things, secrets, and the teacher has gone and spread it all over and say as a nice thing to talk with other people. So confidentiality is very, very important. And also we are not there to give solutions. That's very important.
So, I mean, from what I could gather from what you shared, your experience, sir, is that, the kind of mental state that they are in, it's so easy for them to understand who's hearing and who's listening, and they're able to differentiate that. And the one who's actually lending them a patient ear is the right person at that point of time.
Yes.
The other beautiful point, sir, which you brought out is that we all think we are experts in all our fields, and we feel that we can always share our own experiences and that will work perfectly for them. And you quite rightly said that each one of us has our own journey, and we are not out there to give a solution, but we are out there to listen to their problem from what you're trying to say. So you've given us a good gist, sir, of what not to do. As in, do not advise them, at the same point of time, don't share your experience, and the journeys are different. But what I want to understand now from you is, if all of these things, which I'm sure many of us thought are the right ways, if we are not going to do that, I would want to understand from you as an expert, what should we do? How can we help them? How can we prevent suicide?
What we mean, people around us here, what can we do? That's the main question, isn't it? Yeah. What can I do? What can you do? What can the other person do? What can the specialists in the medical field do?
Right.
Do different things. So the minimum what we can do, a couple of things. One is to listen. That's the most difficult thing also. You can see in life. We all don't want to listen. That's the biggest problem. So one thing is, we should train ourselves to listen, and also look for people whom we can help. People who have lost something. People who have recently come out of or gone into some kind of grief. Can be a loss of a job, loss of a person, or loss of a relationship. And so we can listen to them, and if we can, give them some courage. By listening, we can give them courage and asking the right question, not advising again. So as a society, we can listen and give them courage, and give them the courage to make them to live another day. Now this person people, they're talking about people who are suicidal or who are so depressed or who are so bad in their, not clinical depression, but who are emotionally down, that kind of people. If we can make them to live another day, living a day at a time, and they will come back. And as I said before, try to get them out of their tunnel vision and see the world and get some hope. So these are the things that we can do. So, the first thing is to identify whom we can help. So we don't just go around and say, no, listen, doesn't make any sense. So we can identify. We should know that we can identify. There's a lots of stories. I don't, it's lack of time, but
I mean, more than happy to listen to,
so
if you can share.
We can identify, and if there is time, I can narrate some stories later. And the other thing is we should have real interest in this. Now, we cannot act. We cannot be actors in this. So we must really like people, love people. If that is not there, we should cultivate that. Without that, if we are so selfish, we cannot do these things. And encourage people to seek help. You know, people with depression, from Jaffna point of view, so many that don't go for medical treatment. We don't know how to convince them to do that. No? So get them to the professionals. If they are really depressed, clinically depressed, then go to seek medical help. And also let them know where help can be found. There are so many lines, you know, in UK, in Australia, in Sri Lanka, the telephone lines, so people can go directly, and spread in the society positive thinking. Now, like in this forum, I'm sure this forum is positive thinkers. So think positive. So these are some of the things that we as a society do, and also have a look at the media and see what they can do. So that's another world. Yeah.
Right. So you feel that it's not just you and I guess it's the society at large, and the various, as you said, the fourth estate in terms of the media also plays a major role when it comes to something like this. Because I guess I completely agree with sir that, you know, even if tomorrow I come across somebody like that, before attending the session, the first thought comes is to ask probing questions, you know, try and get maximum information from that person, which today you realize is absolutely the wrong thing to do. I mean, that's not what you're there for. You know, you're there for a very different reason.
In a sense, I must not accuse people, but people, as you said, they probe and enjoy. You know, there's a sadistic tendency to, you know, gossip, and then take it and then talk and gossip, and that kind of
absolutely. And I guess, sir, the kind of societies that we all come from, I guess one major issue which we always keep forgetting, and I guess sir brought it out very well, is about the social stigma which is associated with something like this. You know, I mean, coming from an Indian cultural background, if I tell my parents about approaching a counselor, I'm suddenly looked down upon. What's wrong with you? Why do you want to meet a counselor? You know, there's nothing wrong. So when something as basic as that is looked down upon, and like, you know, what can he or she tell you which we can't, I can very well understand that somebody who is at that level of depression or with that level of stress, right, is of course having it as a bigger torture or bigger thought that, you know, what if I approach somebody and what will the society think of me? So, you know, they don't want to add one more factor, one more to their list. So you were talking about media. Can you just elaborate in terms of what role can the media play in, you know, taking this beyond a nascent level that we are talking about? You know, how can this become more at the society level, and what role can the media play out there, sir?
See how media writes about suicide. Now, fortunately, in developed countries, there's more discipline in this. Just for an example, it's not suicide, but similar. There was a front page news item I read in a Sri Lankan paper, Jaffna paper. The train played football with a luxury car when it was crossing the railway track, and 5 people died. So how enjoyable this has been to report it. And he saw this as a train playing football with a luxury car. There's no, the car is a luxury car and the train played football and 5 people died. This is actual story. Media is very, very irresponsible in, I'm talking about countries like, not too much, I don't know, India, Sri Lanka definitely. And now this flood of online media, web-based media, they want sensation in everything. They want commercialism. So suicide is a commercial matter for them. And they write stories in such a way, and we call it copycat. It's read by somebody who already has suicidal tendency, and they copycat. They copy.
So I guess, yeah. I guess so what you're trying to say is that the media world over is pretty much running behind what will make their editorial sell. Or in other words, it's like every news is breaking news, and how can they sensationalize everything that they want to speak about? I agree. And I guess if they do play a more ethical, a more strengthening role, I guess we can go a long way in avoiding this kind of a situation.
Yeah. And then comes social media and the visual media. Now, social media, anybody can write anything, not substantiated, and anybody can accuse anybody, can hurt anyone, and there have been deaths due to, we all know that. Children have been hurt, so much of damage has been caused by the irresponsible social media. I don't know what we can do about it. They are big people, so there's no control. And the other one is visual media, the films, and more importantly, the serials, the TV dramas. I know in Tamil, it's killing the society. The TV drama is the #1 enemy of our society. It's what my belief is. If anybody, I'm sorry if anybody of you is watching this TV drama, it's like drug. It's a drug, really. It's a drug, and all that teaches, all it speaks about is corruption, how to cheat another person, how to undermine. There's no other subject. This is the subject. And the auntie and the newly married girl, how they can undermine each other. These are the things they talk. Now, and they never end. So this agony goes on and on and on. Suicidal people, that's a good, it's igniting suicide, right. I think. And also there was one time, a lot of people started, Jaffna story, the fan, ceiling fan, they started putting there and hanging there. The origin of this is a TV show. They showed this in the TV. So media has to be teledramas and all. They have, I don't know how to fight these people, but but this is something that society has to address as well. I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's a two-edged sword, and somehow the other edge of the sword is not in our control at all, and that's how media plays a role. I guess so. I guess by now the audience are pretty clear in terms of what exactly this problem is and how big an issue it is today, and what things they should do and what things they should not do. But coming towards the end, I just, I had one major question before I go to my last one, is what I wanted to understand from you, sir. We started today's conversation wherein we said that people cannot cope. This is more of an escape route. Do you feel that there is anything that we can do, maybe when they are at a teenage level or an adolescent level or, at the younger level, any kind of maybe training or talking or anything can be done so that we make them more resilient, we make them more stronger, or we make them more open to the idea of facing such situations in the future, and then not taking such escapist role. Basically, can we do something which is where we would say prevention is better than cure?
Yeah. So this is a big question, and the answer is partly in your question as well. How to so it's the way we are going to bring up our children. It's a big topic in itself, and there should be experts in this. Other experts in this. I'm not an expert though, but I know something about it. How to bring up children. We need strategies. So we say we let them do things independently. See, the way children are being protected in societies like in developing countries, maybe better here. They're overprotected, and they're not allowed challenges. So these things will not help. So they need to go through the difficulties. We should allow them to go through the difficulties and generate problem-solving skills among them. They face the problem and find a solution. We can support in the background. And they need to make good friends. They need to go out and do exercises. And in Jaffna, because I am spending my time there, is no place to play. When I was growing up, after school, you all run to the big oval with the football, the ball. There's nothing. I don't see that. Very rarely there are some clubs here and there. So in developed countries, it's very well organized. So and spend time with them. Now, we should put our smartphones away. We should switch off the teledrama and spend time with the children. So, I mean, this is, in a sense, they are common sense, but they are deep things, and parental education. The school should take a part in educating the parents mainly, and in dealing with the children. The schools, I think they do take a role in this. So it's a very big question, and somebody has to give a session purely on this as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so what, you've really brought out in this last 45 minutes that we've spoken is that, though we look at it again so much just at the surface level, when someone is about to commit that or someone has already committed, and then we feel, oh my God, we could have done something. It's something which starts as early as when they are small children and, they are young adults. And, that the seeds are sown right there. And if you are bringing them up in the right way, if the parents and the children are getting the right guidance, how the future, the world will be a much more safer place to live in, not because of others, but because of our own selves.
Yeah, and also don't postpone. So my own regrets are there. Now, just a little story in this. We went, we go out and meet communities. We went out to one of the government offices, about 250, 300 people there, and we introduced these things to them. Suicides is going up. At the time, the rate was 1 in every 4 hours, a person was dying or either attempting suicide in Jaffna. Right. Small community, and 1 in 4 hours, one person goes to hospital. So we went there, and they said, "Oh, you should have come yesterday. We just lost one lady who suicided yesterday. If you have come yesterday, she would have listened to all this." So what I'm trying to say is 1 day is too late. So we should be there, and we should be there for people who need us.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, as we come towards the end, and I've already received like a plethora of questions for you, could you just summarize whatever you shared with us in like 5 great takeaways that we can have from this session, sir? I know it's a difficult task. It's such a big topic, and you've shared so much of, I would say pearls of wisdom with us. But if you could just summarize it in 5 takeaways, it will really be helpful for the audience, sir.
Yeah. Okay, that's one is, I hope people understood, not the professional people who already knew all these things, other people, at least some of us understood what the aspects of suicide. Why is it happening? Suicides. Why suicides are happening? They don't happen all of a sudden. There are underlying factors to that. And then second one is, at least some of us will now know, if they have not known before, how to identify suicidal person symptoms, that sort of thing. And also how to help other people, like listening, or directing them to the right place. That kind of thing I hope we learned. And also media. Although we didn't spend much time on media, we at least indicated that it's a serious affair we have.
Right. Great. Any other good, sir?
No, I think takeaway is more than enough, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And the listening is, I would emphasize out of all this, the fact that the listening, what we discussed about listening. We are all weak in this, including myself. I'm not boasting that I'm a great listener. I will never say that. But at least I have become a better listener over the last 8 years after doing this.
Lovely, lovely, sir. I guess everyone today is going to surely have one takeaway, that whatever happened in the last 15 minutes, we've all listened and not entry from one and exit from the other. I guess that's the biggest takeaway for me. But thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for those great pearls of wisdom. You've actually cleared off a lot of wrong notions, a lot of misconceptions, and shown us the right path ahead in terms of how can we make the world a better place? How can we actually rid the world of actually, I would call this self-destruction. So thank you. Thank you so much, Nithi, sir. I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions. I already have a list full of it. So you're going to have a long list of stuff coming your way. But before that, for everybody, I would want to let you know about our next session, about our next episode. So our next episode on the 17th of October, episode number 62, is going to be on stigma and mental illness. Dr. N. Yoganathan, he's worked as a consultant psychiatrist in NHS and private sector since many years. He's also a full-time member of Group Analytical Society International and done local, national, and international presentations on the subject of stigma and related subjects. So I'm sure we are going to have a lot of food for thought next week as well. And now I guess I will pass on the baton to my dear friend, Raj Mathwan. If you could just give a vote of thanks. Raj, over to you.
Wow, wow, wow. That's a very powerful presentation. I'm Raj Mathwan, connecting from Canada. Today I have the honor and the privilege of presenting this vote of thanks to Mr. Mavai Nithianandan. From now I will call you as Nithi. Can I have the privilege of calling you Nithi? Suicide prevention is also an important topic especially in the whole world, especially in Sri Lanka, Tamil community that has come out of the clutches of the ugly war. And we are very, very happy that you are working with those people who are affected mentally in Sri Lanka, especially the war zone area. The other thing is the feeling of taking one's life is not only common in elders, but it's very, very common in younger people, especially teenagers. I have seen very many cases in Canada, but I'm not going to really go into that detail. We also understand, understand Nithi, that you have been volunteering in Sri Lanka with people affected with mental health issues. And you are also founded a suicidal prevention center called Kalai Kotam Nanpargal, which is like a translate like friends with giving hands.
Kai Kodukum Nanpargal.
Yeah, Kai Kodukum Nanpargal. Yes, and I could translate like a friends with giving hands.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. On behalf of Meet Menaca team, my sincere thanks to Nithi for taking your time, coming out to the show and doing the presentation, amazing presentation on suicide prevention. I'm sure that you told me before that it's past midnight. In spite of the time in Australia, you are good enough to come out and give us this wonderful presentation. We thank you so much. And also, using this opportunity, I also would like to thank Meet Menaca team for their tireless efforts in bringing show every week after week. And our show is geared for personal development, to understand human and relationship issues, and human and more specifically women empowerment, and so on. Thank you again, Mr. Nithianandan. Nithi.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj, for those lovely words. So before I go on to a few Q&A, right, me being me, I would want to say something for sure, right? As if I haven't said enough already, Menaca has given me this opportunity and I will grab it with both hands. So I feel, there are two quotes which always come to my mind whenever I think of suicide, having seen one of a near dear one. And one thing which surely comes to my mind, number one, is even the darkest night will end someday and we will see sunshine. And I completely believe in that. I mean, after every full moon night, there will be a new moon night. But after that, again, there will be sunrise. My second belief, and I guess that belief has only become stronger after listening to Nithi sir, is that, whenever one thinks, and this is something which I personally believe in, that whenever one thinks of ending one's life, I guess the biggest thing that can stop one from doing it is to tell yourself the reason why you've been able to hold on this long. So if you can convince yourself in terms of what, was able to make you go on so long, I just feel that I'll be in a much more self-confident position to handle future issues and problems. So these were just two small bits from me. So I guess we'll take around 2 odd questions before we move off Facebook Live. So Nithi sir, are you all geared up to be ready for a volley of questions coming your way?
Oh, questions. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Whatever I know, I will tell. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. No problem.
Yes, sir. To begin with, one of the first questions that has been sent to me is, what made you to work with the people who are suicidal? Why did you take this path? How did you make this choice that you want to work with such people and work towards these issues?
Okay, it's a personal question. To make it brief, now I have been working as an engineer, and when I retired, I thought what I am going to do the rest of my life. Apart from the school I have been building for 28 years, Tamil school, which is flourishing still. Okay. So I thought, okay, people have come out of the war, so we'll go there. So I went there and I found that suicide was rampant. And in the other provinces, apart from where the Tamils live, there has been suicide prevention centers all over for 40 years at the time. For 40 years, the suicide prevention campaign has been going on, but there was absolutely nothing in the north and east. So nobody was doing anything there, and therefore I thought, and then this incident I described, the 4th-year university girl, the dean of the faculty is my friend, and I went into the whole story, and it touched my heart. And then I went straight to Colombo and asked this Sri Lanka Smithrio, why are you not operating in Jaffna, in the 2 provinces? And they said, we are not operating there because there are no takers. There's no one to run it there. Then I said, I'm here to run, let us start. And that is how this started. So it was an accident. So I went there to do something, and so I picked this one. And the other big one I picked was, I just mentioned that, and I found that Jaffna was going to become a desert. I still believe that Jaffna will become a desert. This was predicted 75 years ago by Israelis, and we have not done much. And the salt water is coming into the wells. This is a completely different story. Salt water is coming into all the wells, and ultimately Jaffna will become a desert. People can't live there. So then I thought of how to stop this. So water saving essential, and people are dying at a rate. The doctors will know here will know at a rate because of chemicals. So much of cancer. Jaffna is the first, the whole island. So I wanted to do these two things: suicide prevention, and then this model farm to be a model for the country, for the area, for the people, that they stop eating these chemical soaked vegetable fruits, and also they save their underground water. Otherwise, the sea will come and grab the whole thing. So this is my story, and then I live there and come back to Colombo to Melbourne to look after my 5 schools. And nowadays, thanks to the internet, you need not be at that place. You can be anywhere. Now, after Corona, I have been stranded in Melbourne, but I have been looking after what I am doing in Sri Lanka.
Lovely, lovely. I guess, sir, this spirit of yours will, that's what I guess keeps you going. And I guess that's one thing why your school students will never want you to retire. I feel that energy in you, I feel you're more energetic than any one of us out here. I mean, I can feel that zeal that it's, almost 2 midnight out there, but you still want to get up, go out and do something and come back. Rest we'll see later. I mean, hats off to you, sir, for the 2 humble reasons that actually brought you back to Sri Lanka. The second question I would want to take is one of the audience members wants to know that these people who are volunteering in Sri Lanka towards suicide prevention, are these people trained volunteers? Is there like a formal body or an organization or any formal kind of training that is provided to them, sir?
Right. They are ordinary people, but they are trained, and I have the privilege of training them. I got my training from Sri Lanka Sumitrio, fantastic people I said before, and very trained and very qualified, highly qualified. It's all practical training. This is not theory. So practical training. And so we give them 2 days of training before they can start working with people. And after that, we give reinforcement training periodically. And they gather every month, they have meetings and discuss how to deal with these things. So all of a sudden, they will not become experts, but they are willing. So in that sense, they are trained.
So I guess the biggest point which you brought out there, where there's a will, there's a way. So they're willing to help, they're willing to participate, and they're willing to play such an important role in eradicating the world from this. Thank you. So with that, I guess it's time to bid goodbye to our audience on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us week after week and for really, getting to know so much about you from us or about us from you and making this an enriching experience. And I hope to see all of you all once again in the next session, next week, same time, same place, another topic which the world doesn't want to speak, but we want to speak because we are celebrating you. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye. See you all next week. Thank you.